I was getting a little echo. I'm not sure if that's on our end. I'll call this month's Transportation and Mobility Board meeting to order and start with a roll call. Charlotte Ford.
Here.
Lisa Herm.
Here.
Karen Malaby-Babb.
Here.
Aaron Lau.
Here.
Elizabeth McCabe.
Here.
Ron Reagan. Here. And Brooke Webb. You have
Here.
full attendance. Good to see you all. We'll start with a motion to approve the April 1st meeting minutes. Any motions on the floor?
I'll make a motion to approve meeting minutes. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. We'll move into the chairperson's report. I don't have a formal report. I just want to let folks know that PRT should.
Citizens.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Citizens comments. Start with Chip D'Alessandro. If you can come to the front of the room, you'll have 5 minutes to speak. Please state your name and address.
Yep. Well, thank you all for being on the board. I've lived in this town all my life, which is 67 years, and I've enjoyed it tremendously. I'm not here to complain, but I do have a request. I live at 142 Hoodridge Drive. It's a corner of Hoodridge and Vermont. I'm approximately 98 yards from Foster School. And I went to school there. My kids, all 4 kids did. And around 9/11, they installed a couple signs, 3 of them to be exact, only on one side of the road. And just like in high school, I didn't do my homework, so I only got 5 copies. There's only 3 pictures, they're not bad. Anyways, these signs, they tell you not to park there during school hours. I don't want our police officers to enforce it. Those are my neighbors and their kids. Sometimes people park in my driveway, which you'll see on there, which is great. I don't mind. They're picking up their kids. The crossing guard, he can't enforce it. But if these 3 signs, if they're there, they're not being enforced, and I don't want them enforced. They're not being obeyed, which that's fine. People need to pick their kids up. Could we remove them? We have enough signs on our streets and, as you can see, that one, it's kind of faded. And, I'm not, like I said, I'm not complaining that you're not enforcing it. Don't want it enforced. I just think they don't need to be there. Because during the week, people park there and, Question?
So just so I'm clear too, the second and third page.
Those are just showing you the line of cars.
Oh,
And as you go down the street you're looking towards Foster, there's 2 more signs. One in front of my neighbors on Vermont, and then one in front of the 2 people that live on Vermont up on the hill next to the school. And it's just, we have beautiful streets in Mount Lebanon. We really do, and the Public Works does a great job. And they plant the trees when we're needed, but the signs are not. I mean, it's not like a stop sign and a road sign. If you would just consider it. I meant to come here many, many times. I just
So
got rained out today.
since I've been here probably the longest, I'll answer that a little bit.
Okay.
There was a study done in each school zone probably 20 years ago. PTA was involved, police department, traffic division was involved. Every school zone was looked at, and those signs were installed based on those studies with traffic engineer. It wasn't Gateway at the time, but I think it was Trans Associates. But those signs were installed for those zones for a particular reason. So if we take them out, I mean, yeah, they're maybe let sleeping dogs lie because they're not being enforced right now. If we take them out, it could create a problem that we don't have right now.
Okay, they're only on one side of the street.
Understood, yeah. But those were all installed to the specifications of whatever the agreement was at the time, so.
So you want me to weed whack around that again? I gave it a shot, Thank you all, that's all.
Chip, I'll follow up
Yeah.
on Rudy's, we're about to launch into what's called an active transportation plan across the entire community, but jointly with Dormont. There will be a relook at some of this work, but I don't disagree with you. We have a lot of signs
Yeah.
a lot of signs that aren't enforced or a lot of signs that are even confusing.
And I don't want them enforced.
Yeah.
Chief, please, don't, You guys got enough to, oh, so they got enough. Sorry, I don't look into the police department, my kids are gone now, but it's,
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If I recall correctly, because I know we did some of the work a long time ago about actually eliminating a lot of signs because of the study that was done. I believe this was done just for the flow of the go zone to try to keep cars from parking on both sides of the street. So that, I think that was the original intention, if I recall correctly, specifically
I
in
wasn't
Boston.
really involved in decision making and just told to put the signs up. So I was on that end of it. I was the installation.
We'll blame Chip
Yeah,
Sanders.
Chip, had a big hand in that.
But yeah, really, the study was done for the purpose of trying to eliminate a lot of
Yeah.
unnecessary signs that were around. And I believe, I recall this one specifically because the chances were that cars could park on both sides of the street and cause complete gridlock. So it's interesting that they park on the side of the street where there are signs, but not on the other side. But I guess it's just the convenience of going
Yeah.
towards.
And it's not
Yeah,
long,
this is
they're not there long, they don't cause a problem, then people don't cause a problem.
This is, like, this would be the very, like, the long end of the go zone. So they're lining up for the go zone and essentially flowing. So if you're stopped there, it is impeding the flow of the go
Well,
zone.
what the,
That's why nobody's on the other side is,
to interrupt you for a minute, what they did is, the crossing guard now puts cones from the corner to that sign so that it doesn't impede everybody and,
Yeah, the corner,
Yeah. like I said.
That's more dangerous to block the view of the crossing guard and the kids that
Yeah.
cross.
So they pull in my driveway, and that's a big deal, it's okay.
Start charging like these.
Well, no, they're my neighbors. Okay, you listened, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Chip.
Good seeing you again, Rudy. See you. See you, Mickey. Thanks. Thank you.
Right, I believe it's Blaine Lucas.
Just for the clarity, people who couldn't maybe see the pictures, those are no stopping signs, not no parking signs, much stricter.
No stopping, standing,
Actually,
no
all,
parking.
yeah, all the above, yeah,
and during school hours.
yes.
During school.
Blaine Lucas, 744 Scrubgrass Road. Unlike the diplomatic Mr. Delisandro, I am here to complain, complain big time. As you are aware, speeding has been an issue in Scrubgrass for years. Most recently, basically 2 years ago, the current effort was precipitated by my colleagues' car on the street being destroyed. We started into the process, then the traffic board, then we had to change over to this board. We've certainly been very appreciative of the effort you guys have involved. We finally reached the point last fall with recommendation from you and the municipality to go ahead with striping and a bunch of other improvements along Scrubgrass. Everything's set. We're told it's all going to happen this spring. 2 weeks ago, we get a letter from Mr. Sokol saying, oops, the street's falling apart. We want to wait and repave it first. We're going to punt you to next year. This has just been really frustrating for the neighborhood. I mean, we're getting killed by process here. I mean, not to characterize things, even if it occurs when it's now being promised, it's going to be 3 years from the time we originally requested some action be taken to basically the street is striped. I mean, compare that with the Commonwealth's efforts on I-95 when it collapsed. It is just, the neighborhood is just infuriated at this point. And so I don't know what can be done. We'd ask the board to consider and the commissioners, one, doing some kind of supplemental appropriation and going ahead and paving this year and doing the project as originally proposed, or at the very minimum, implementing the other parts that the board recommended. That would include that's the crosswalk down at the lower entrance, striping that and having to redo it next year's minimal cost, putting the signage in for that, clearing the tree that are blocking the view, and critically getting those speed monitoring signs. So that'd be sidewalk, speed monitoring signs, and having maybe for the first time or a decade or more, actually have a little bit of speed enforcement on the street. So I just throw this open. I know that this board has been very sympathetic to our plight. we're just getting killed by process here, and we just think that municipality owes the neighborhood something more than just punting all this for another year. So I don't know if anyone wants to comment on that now, but we're all really mad right now, so. So,
I can certainly understand your concern. I also understand the municipal concern as well, and I think, I mean, Brady, you're welcome to comment on this. We're trying to avoid this in the future, through the board and through some other efforts, getting ahead of the construction cycle, so we get this. But yeah, I fully hear you. We are a new board, and we know it started under the previous one. I think we endorsed the whole effort. I'm just not sure, unless there's other thoughts, what we can do as a board, but would defer to, I think it's in commission's hands, is to be honest. Or, I mean,
can the board make a recommendation to still undertake some of those things this year?
Was everything that was proposed permanent, or was anything
I mean,
temporary that could be?
not so much permanent, but it was with thermoplastic. So, you know, we expect to get 3 or 4 years out of that before we have to do anything with it.
No, like posts or anything that we could put up now and take down later?
Well, I mean, you know, there again, you're gonna put the posts up and then you're gonna have to take them down the mill and pave the street. So, I mean, there was just a lot more deterioration than we anticipated or expected with that street. It got a lot worse, a lot quick over the winter that we had.
Yeah,
We have other streets as well that are same.
right,
you know.
we understand it. I mean, there was a lot of degradation over the winter. It was, quite frankly, not in the greatest of shape even
No.
before this winter.
Right.
But things like the signage and the like. So is there any reason why those things can't be undertaken now? I mean, that was the original plan. And even if you're not going to, you're gonna hold off on the striping until the repaving's done. Why is there any reason why you can't do those things now?
Speed signage you're talking about, the
The speed signage and the warning signage for the crosswalk. Because we feel having that striped and having that signage up is gonna have some impact on speed, at least on the lower end of the street.
I mean, you know, it's gonna be an expensive job for all the striping. I think it was over $100,000, wasn't it, for the entire project? But, you know.
I mean, all we're talking about is just some temporary, take the paint and stripe.
Yeah,
where
we
the
would
sidewalk is.
probably use paint
Or the
versus,
cross-
because
or
it's
the
only gonna be a
crosswalk is.
one-year process if that was the case. We can look at that. We can look at it.
And what about the speed monitoring signage? You know,
It tells you how fast you're
Yeah.
going and flashes and so forth.
Yeah, it was part of the overall plan.
That
so-
won't interfere with the paving job. I mean, that's off to the side, so.
I guess,
We can certainly look at that.
okay, I guess we need to talk to the police department about actually having some speed enforcement on the street, right? So,
Yeah.
but yeah, if we could at least get started on those, I think we will probably be communicating with Commissioner Flynn as well as our commissioner about whether
We'll look at it.
to accelerate the paving of that.
I mean, we can put it under new business, scrub grass, just for recommendation if we want to make because I think I would advise making some what temporary measures we can do or what parts of the program we can pull forward without interrupting the full depth paving. So we'll put that under new business and put it up for a vote.
Thank you.
Next, Kayla Simmons.
My name is Kayla. I am the owner of Nourish and Move Wellness Studio, which is a new business over on Beverly Road. And I am here to follow up on behalf of the Beverly Road Association on what they spoke to you, I believe, about the last meeting. I wasn't here. But I understand that our big ask is about having a new study done. And they were also looking for follow-ups about the recommendations from the parking study done, I think in 2017. And just to share some of my own concerns as a business owner is my biggest concern is employee parking. And I know I looked over the 2017 study and I don't think that was considered in that study. And so I believe that employee parking for businesses has to be a part of that study because there's nowhere to park within, I think, a 2 or 3 block radius that isn't within a 2-hour window. Which means employees, unless they want to get ticketed, have to leave and move their car every 2 hours. Which there's restaurants there. We do massages, acupuncture, treatments that last longer than that. If you're coming in, setting up and and there's no time to like go move your car, come back. And so I think that should be a considered part of that study.
Yes, I think we have an item underneath one of our committees to talk about that, but
Great.
certainly.
Thanks, Kayla.
Next, we have Kelly Brown.
Kelly was with me.
Oh, okay. Any follow-up, Kelly?
No, I think Kayla did a great
Okay.
job, but we're basically just here to see the follow through.
In Parker, you can park. Parker Drive, you can park, and it's pretty flat, decent walk, or not okay walk, because I walk that street all the time from Hillcrest, and I'd welcome more cars parked there to slow down traffic, so. I don't think there's any limitations on Parker Drive.
Okay.
Anything online? I think Commissioner Flynn said he's not gonna be able to join tonight, so I don't know if there's, okay. All right, moving into chairperson's report. I'll try to be short. I just wanted to remind folks that PRT had their second of 3 public hearings today on the potential service cuts that would go into effect in February 2026. Those cuts will reduce all bus service or eliminate all bus service that currently exists on PRT in Mount Lebanon, which includes the 36, the 41, and the 38M. Those will all go away, as well as the red line will truncate at Castle Shannon. And there will be massive impact. There will be no extra service on sporting event days or any other special service days, including the NFL draft or other large entertainment events. This also includes, well, it doesn't directly impact the closure of the Collier Garage, which is just outside of our borders, but that is the garage that serves all South Hills routes. And also the full elimination of the Silver Line. So there's one more public hearing that is in July or June ahead of any budget considerations. So if you know folks that ride the bus currently and rely on it, I would certainly, let folks know they should need to reach out to, the public hearings are for PRT, but the elected officials really control where the budget goes. So I work for PRT, but this is something that will affect the whole county. So the next meeting is June 12th at the David L. Lawrence Convention Center, and there are details on rideprt.org. I've heard a lot about enforcement online and here. I never believe enforcement is the answer, but zero enforcement also isn't the answer, coupled without engineering efforts. The coffee with a cop, I actually talked to the chief and asked why they don't have anyone attend. They told me that they were advised that they don't need to attend anymore. This is an engineering meeting. So that's fine. I believe engineering is a solution, but I came up here, there was numerous double parked cars on Washington Road causing issues. There's cars parked on the sidewalks on Washington Road. The answer on cars parked in the crosswalks around my kids' school is to call 911. There has to be something. I would like enforcement to be proactive rather than reactive. So engineering is the proactive element, but I think people appreciate enforcement on our streets or a presence on our streets, or to understand how enforcement is happening right now. I don't think it's easy to understand what is happening from a ticketing perspective. And if there is an easier way, I would certainly, on behalf of the board or on behalf of myself and some of the citizens, appreciate a little more transparency on enforcement and how our police are involved in keeping the streets safe. I would pass to the commission liaison, but I don't believe Andrew's on, so moving to the staff liaison.
Okay, just wanted to let everyone know that Paul O'Rourke had submitted his resignation from the board. The commission has been made aware, the manager's been made aware, so they're working on a replacement for the remainder of his term. Have Seth had asked me to reach out to Ian about the transportation plan and any updates. So Ian McMeans, our assistant manager, provided the following. He said, both Mount Lebanon and Dormont have signed the contracts with the school, and we will be kicking off a planning efforts next month. Additionally, we received a $50,000 grant from Allegheny County Active Allegheny Grant Program. County executive is going to be in Mount Lebanon and do a press conference on the grant next Friday, May 9th. So a big portion of that plan is being funded by a grant that we were awarded as well. We've been pretty busy the last week with this storm that we had. Just so everyone knows, we have 42 signalized intersections that we maintain in the municipality. 18 of those lost power. We have battery backups, fortunately, in all of our intersections. We were able to do that a couple years ago with a grant, but those battery backups only last 8 to 10 hours as well. So we lost We had, at one point in time, we had 18 intersections out. We had generators running 5 of them after the batteries had expired, and then we were switching them back and forth as the power came back up. So all of our intersections are powered now. Unfortunately, there's still some residents that don't have power. There's some rear easement stuff that was knocked down, poles and transformers that's really hard to get to, so it's a real mess out there. I mean, we had trees on houses and it was the whole community too. I've been here and seen some storms blow through here, but this was one of the worst that I've seen, from a wind standpoint, the trees and limbs and those type of things. That we'll be cleaning up from this for probably a month or two at least, if not longer, so.
This is why I should write down my chairperson's report instead of going, but I wanted to commend DPW and the team because they were definitely out there. And I know, I sent an email about Woody Base moving up. I certainly understand that, but I saw them out there grabbing piles on the street and just being proactive about that. So, I saw the generator on the signal and just, I appreciate getting out there for that because it's a school, one by me at Beverly and Overlook. It was a school zone 1. So, it's interesting. I'm glad we have battery backup because I mean, my time here, which hasn't been that long, but we've not had power out that long. Like,
you'd be surprised how many times, because it data logs it every time we lose power in the intersections. You'd be surprised, number one, how many times the power actually goes out for a short amount of time. And number two, those actually act as like a filter, a power filter. So it kind of cushions, there's a lot of fluctuation in the electricity that goes through the system. And those are very sensitive systems, the computers that control the activity of the intersections. And that acts as kind of a filter for the power that comes through, and it's phenomenal. It just really protects the equipment as well. So it was, like I said, it was, our guys are really working hard doing work out there, but, we appreciate everyone's patience and so forth.
do an awesome job. So please share our appreciation.
Appreciate that. I will do that. And then the last thing is, as the resident spoke of, I think I informed the board and we sent letters out to all the residents that we, made the commission aware that, as we were looking at the scrub grass issue, the pavement deteriorated pretty badly over the winter. The freeze thaw cycles that we had really did a number on a lot of the streets. So we thought it was prudent to just make them aware at least. And that's a pretty big chunk of money to go ahead and put Thermo down and then mill it off the next year. It would look pretty bad doing that. So we wanted to make sure we made everybody aware of that. And the decision was made to postpone that. Unfortunately, we know it. Everybody was looking forward to that. But, it's a big investment. We don't want to just grind that off a short time after that, a few months down the road. So that's where we're at now. But we will explore the possibility of doing those couple things that you talked about.
Regarding the press conference, is that publicly attendable or is
They
it?
want to keep that to a minimum, I think, from what Ian was saying,
I think the only question I would have, how is the board going to be involved?
with
With the study, or is it going to like?
that'd probably be a question for Ian, really.
Okay, I'll follow up with you.
Okay.
Might ignore me, but that's fine. But yeah, thank you, Rudy. You're welcome. Moving into subcommittee reports, we'll go to capital budget.
Okay, great. Yeah, we did have a meeting, this month and, we came up with 7 items that we're proposing for the 2026 budget. So, these are our recommendations in this order. So, I'm assuming, that we would just formally, be submitting those, I guess, without Andrew here, but, we can keep track. I did send an email, but I don't think I included you, Mikey, but, I will make sure we get that out. So, yeah. So the, first item we have is Kelso Road improvements. And I think, Mike, you, replied, but in the June meeting, there's probably gonna be some study results.
So what?
Some results of what your
Oh, yeah.
findings are, yeah.
We have everything and we'd have some stuff pulled together. I just have to review with Rudy and the manager.
Yeah.
Before
Yeah, cool.
bringing it here. In the
So
last
that's-
week hasn't been a ton of availability.
Oh, I understand. Yeah, no, we appreciate it. So that's our number 1. So the focus really should be around the crosswalk section is what we're looking for on the Kelso Road. Number 2 is sidewalks. So also for Kelso, but in addition to others, locations, Greenhurst and Salem. So those are our recommendations. And the third one is the Washington Road pedestrian safety. So what we're looking to do is implement a 15-second pedestrian-only fades for the lights, all the lights, Shady Drive West, all the way to Cochrane. So, and that should be during school hours. So we're really interested in having hopefully some, impactful safety precautions specific to our children. Is what's driving that one.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but will that impact the timing of the signals?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so right now, all the signals are coordinated, and what that means is as you drive through, they should be turning green as you're proceeding through north or southbound Washington Road, and the exact opposite happens as they turn red. Any sort of timing changes to that, it would require an engineering study, I'm assuming, to start with, number one. And number two, that would also have an impact on that coordination, so the flow of traffic would be impacted by not only Main Street, but side street, really. Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, but the goal is to keep the Main Street flowing and allow the side street traffic to blend in as that happens, particularly during rush hours, and I think that's the times that we're kind of talking about. So I'm not minimizing what you're asking about, but I just want to make you aware that by doing that, that has an impact. That time has to come from somewhere. And if it's an exclusive ped phase, then it has to come from somewhere, and that's going to be either the Main Street or the side street times.
So I think that, and I'll defer Elizabeth, I think that the idea was that some of the funding would be to fund an engineering study to see what could be done. But the idea would to make a safer crosswalk for, especially around school zone times and so on.
Right now, there's an advance on those. It's several seconds, right, for an advance. So in other words, the pedestrians get the signal when they're out into the intersection, but it's not an exclusive. There's a big difference between exclusive and.
And I think that's the
advance.
biggest concern is it's not exclusive, so it puts a lot of pedestrians in harm's way when they're coming up and like turning as pedestrians are crossing.
Understood.
Can the can the 3-second phase be increased to say 7 seconds without?
They are
The
typically
advancements.
between 3 and 7 seconds. They get up to 7 depending on the corridor. We implemented some of that along Route 51 through Brentwood. They got 7 seconds for the 5-lane crossing. Whereas the side streets might have had 3 seconds. So it's either 3, 5, or 7.
So
I
we have to
believe through
ensure
this
this is
corridor, it's
3.
all 3.
Right, and we're a walking district with a middle school and an elementary school right on Washington Road. And it is deadly. It is deadly for our kids. Brooke can speak to that on what we see. And if we're a walking district, our focus shouldn't be on flowing of cars during rush hour. The focus should be on the children in our community, because that is our main priority. It's not people from Upper St. Clair and Peters getting downtown. Maybe they need to leave 5-10 minutes early. That's not my concern. I live here. My kids walk to school, our kids walk to school, and we need to prioritize them. So hearing that it might mess up the flow of traffic really aggravates me, because you're talking about prioritizing cars over children. This isn't for 24-hour, this is for school zone hours to start. And if we can't figure that out, I don't know what to say.
So, Beth, fully endorse and concur. I wanted to hear the rest of the recommendations and then maybe.
Yeah.
Put some new business items on and we can discuss, and make some recommendations.
Yeah,
but
didn't
fully-
mean to get carried
No,
away
no,
there, but I just
I
wanted
appreciate
to.
it. Yeah, no, it's important.
Yeah, so number 4 is the Beverly Road study to revisit 2017 findings and proposals. So we're recommending that. Number 5 is a placeholder for policy and street design. And also number 6 is meter enforcement. And lastly, we have number 7 with traffic calming study on Shady Drive West. So there's been recently a lot of submissions from citizens on that street. Maybe we're starting with a study on that one, but something along the lines of that recommendation. So
What was the meter enforcement?
so that came out of, I believe, from the Beverly Road. I was kind of not sure with the business owners last time, if they were saying would want to be enforced or would not want.
Oh, absolutely, we want them to be.
So it wasn't necessarily, it was Beverly,
Enforcement.
correct, and the idea that we have a very limited meter personnel.
We only have one?
Two, I think there's two, yeah.
Okay.
Actually,
So-
can I speak to that? Just to say that it was,
We need her to stand up and state her name to speak or?
Yeah. Kelly, I've got Kelly's name. Kelly Brown. You know, it's all of Beverly Road? No.
yeah, thank you. Kelly Brown from Beverly Road. The enforcement of the meters is actually for people who feed the meter all day long. That's what we're seeking to be enforced as well. So that people will come out and there's a 2-hour limit on some of those meters. And people will just come out and just keep feeding it. And that's what we're seeking. Just wanted to make sure because
Enforcement of the 2-hour limit, because the intent is for them to have a churn of people moving off the street.
exactly.
Is that like tire marking?
I don't think they're allowed to talk.
Well, we talked about tire marking and that
I just don't know
can't
how
be
you
done.
Do that.
Legally can't be done, but you were talking about sidewalk marking by the tire, chalk marking by the tire, as opposed to actually
Okay.
marking on the tire, because that,
Lawn goes by.
Yeah, I didn't know if they had a license plate reader now.
Yeah, there's still, I think they
Can I
can,
help you?
yeah, I don't know the details on that,
I
but
think the-
they could chalk
that
that.
that is what that
It's
was
done
talked
by
about, is that
GPS.
Yeah.
that would be looked at, since that the new meters actually have that capability, right?
I don't know, I think the issue is, I understand it as the amount of staff we have for meter enforcement, like, it's really, I don't know if they hit Beverly every day, so maybe, will we follow up with Mark to just get a little more information on like, generally meter enforcement and what we have available, because I know the Beverly meters are different than the uptown meters, and, yeah, I would just want to find out more about that, because I think some enforcement has happened, because before they weren't enforcing on Saturday, now they're doing some Saturday enforcement, so there's been progression there, but.
And possibly some digital enforcement, because I don't even think that they need to come out. They can use the app. But the app doesn't limit them from
Exactly.
continuing to add to time.
There's probably state law that they have to have like a photo verification they can't ticket remotely in that sense, like if they're monitoring Park Mobile or something like that.
Is there like a setting that could be?
It was my understanding when we were on the parking board that there was supposed to be,
That was
but
different. I think that was that, I forget the name of
We used to
it.
have things in the roads, right?
Box, yeah, that are in the road, and it would, there was an app that went along with that would tell you if a car was parked
Yeah.
there. So you could actually look on the app and see where the free parking spaces were. But it would also data log how long the car's been there. But that's gone away. We don't use that anymore. Can't remember the name of it.
I know with Park Mobile, because I've used it in
Yeah,
other
it wasn't Park Mobile,
areas.
it was something
Park
else.
Mobile doesn't allow you necessarily like in a certain location to like, there's a limit on how much time you can actually park in a location by using your license plate number to validate it. So I don't know if that's something Mark can answer from a technology standpoint.
Yeah, we would just
sure
appreciate it.
everyone
following
can
through
work.
on that.
Mark would be the one, and I remember having conversations
Thank you, Kelly.
early on.
That seems like one to follow up on, and then.
Yep.
The placeholder for policy and street design, that was just we want a number on that, or we want,
Yes.
oh, that was for us. the
Yes,
subcommittee. Gotcha.
that's a
Yep.
placeholder for us, because again, a lot of these, we don't necessarily know how much some of
Right.
the stuff's gonna be. But in that case, that's something that's within possibly our purview,
Okay.
because it's one of our subcommittees.
And traffic calming on Shady Drive West. That's a request that we've received a petition on, so, okay. That's helpful,
Yes,
the sidewalks. Oh, go ahead, Rudy.
I'm sorry.
The sidewalks so Kelso Greenhurst, those were our recommendation before, and
Mhm.
Salem's a new recommendation, right?
Yes.
But was that on the priority list
It was not.
okay,
So we removed Country Club because we've had previous discussions about Country Club, and that might have to be part of the active transportation, whether it becomes a one-way street or some other more creative way for us to, because sidewalks are going to be very, very challenging on Country Club.
ADA.
So Salem, because that one has been looked at and has been prioritized in its place.
so, I guess I'm not struggling here because I think I want to recommend all these, but I also want to have a little commentary on them. So I think Kelso Road, we've already made that recommendation. Mike, can we add that to just Kelso to the June agenda, or do you think you have things to bring forward to board? So we'll add that to the June agenda. Sidewalks, I think I'm always a proponent for sidewalks, and I want to hear from the other board too. But I'm willing to just send that one forward to the manager and commission because I imagine the manager is going to work up some costs to some of these things. The Washington Road item I'm concerned about because we are adding APSs on Washington Road right now. Those are automatic or audible pedestrian signals. So we're not touching timing right now. We're just adding equipment, but the equipment all should be upgraded on Washington Road. My concern is that we don't know where PennDOT's study of Washington Road that was supposed to have a let date next year, but this quarter, maybe pushed out to 2020. I don't think any of us here have an update from PennDOT.
Just real briefly on that, I know there was a study years ago about timing of signals, basically from the Washington County line all the way through the Liberty tunnels. And they bragged about the amount of time that they saved for that entire corridor. And I know there was also a study years and years ago about a road diet on Washington Road, making it basically one lane instead of two through the business district. PennDOT has a lot of control when it comes to that section of road. So I just am fearful that funding of a study just by Mount Lebanon is going to be fruitless because PennDOT's going to come down and say it's our road.
That's one I would, because of what's happening on Washington Road, because of Mount Lebanon, Dormont, City of Pittsburgh, Allegheny County, all, once again, when they came to ask the communities what they wanted, they advocated for road diet. They said they were going to do the road diet analysis. We have not received the results. That, as far as I understand it, the result of the road diet analysis. Folks have asked questions about it, but you're exactly right. Signals, I mean, what would a timing, this is high level, Mike, but what would a timing on those signals, we're talking 10 signals between Dormont and Mount Lebanon cost? Like a retiming study.
Study the retiming and then
Study and then,
implement it?
yeah.
I mean, $100,000 for everything?
Yeah, it adds up quickly. So there's funds from ARLI, which is the Automated Red Light Enforcement Program. There's funds from Green Light Go. There's funds out there. I would be willing to make a recommendation for the municipality, pending the results of the PennDOT road diet and other elements, to go seek funds for a coordinated signal study and implementation plan between Dormont and Mount. We're doing an active transportation plan with them. I don't think that plan has in the scope Washington Road because it adds up quickly, but I think it makes a lot of sense to do a coordinated signal effort between because they've had signal issues too. The Scott Road signal, the Piermont signal, McFarland, it is.
I think they got that squared away now, though.
But I've not been walking there as much because my kids don't go to preschool there anymore, but they haven't got the people, stop the people from running those red lights though, but that's a different story. So that's one I would want to, I think it would eat our budget from a board perspective very quickly, but I think impelling or, having commission and others go seek funds to do that would be critical to actually make it happen.
What about the recommendation to change it from 3 to 7 seconds, if that's not gonna require a traffic study, the lead time?
Mount Lebanon, I'm talking a little outline because I don't know Mount Lebanon owns the signals, but PennDOT approves the plans. So they would want an engineering or modeling study to understand the level of service impacts to changing that. And that's just what they're going to require. That's where PennDOT's going to go. So
So we can't actively in our own community make that change.
no, not on a PennDOT road.
PennDOT's authorization.
It's a great plan for them because we pay for the maintenance and equipment and signals, but
their priorities is to basically get people through quickly.
That's correct.
correct. Yeah,
Our priority is to have safe pedestrian traffic.
correct.
They are
Those two things.
competing priorities.
Yes.
Because I mean, in reality, it is an urban major arterial. That's like one step down from, interstate highway as far as the amount of traffic that it carries and commuting traffic that it moves. So as a state route, a 2-digit state route, that's their priority. So they're willing to implement things like leading pedestrian intervals and at certain intersections, exclusive pedestrian phases like we have at Cochrane and like we have at Beverly. I mean, at Bower Hill. So those things can be done in pieces, but as far as a system-wide, a 15-second advanced pedestrian, it was essentially an exclusive pedestrian phase. And that would be at each intersection. And I don't know that that would ever get through PennDOT with the purpose of that corridor from their eyes. They're sympathetic to the fact that it's a walking district, so a lot of these other things that we try to push the envelope on and implement, we end up being successful with, but a lot of times it has to be incremental to get their buy-in.
Okay, yeah, sorry, I thought I misunderstood. I thought we could jump from 3 to 7 without having to have their input.
We have done that in
Okay.
other communities. I can say that, but we've done that without having to collect data or do analyses. They were willing to make that change in exchange for, keeping an eye on it. If it became problematic, reverting back. Now, that happened a year and a half, 2 years ago in Brentwood. I haven't heard a word. So I assume it didn't cause major issues, but it still had to go through the process with PennDOT and updating the permit and getting their sign off on it.
Because I do think even that 4-second lead time would make a big difference for kids during
Yeah.
school zone hours. If that's the minimum, if that's the best we can do right now, I think it's worth exploring.
I think I've got a lot of questions on Rushington Road, but if we could make it a discussion item
Sure.
in June, to maybe answer some questions in the interim and bring some of those recommendations forward. I know that'll be when school's over, but maybe we could come with some recommendations in June that could potentially, that's probably a little fast, but potentially be put in place before school starts in the fall. Timing, now that we have updated equipment, timing changes, I don't want to say they're easy, but they're more straightforward than they have been.
They're straightforward enough. In fact, the 4 intersections on 51 in Brentwood, the guy in the civil unit at PennDOT programmed it in himself when he was out there.
Yeah.
So they didn't have to have a contractor or their maintenance guys or anybody do it, so.
Maybe in June, we can come out with a recommendation to push some of those elements forward, but I think there's just some questions in the background that I want to answer, so. Okay. The other part I was gonna say, let's put traffic calming Shady Drive West on new business to either move forward and, Beverly Road study. I was gonna put that on new business as well.
Yep.
And then, John, I don't think policy met.
Policy did not meet, yet, so I think I'll just take this opportunity to say like obviously we're in this awkward period between April and May where we sort of didn't re-up any of the boards, and policy has had, we've had one member who basically hasn't showed up since like the first or second meeting, so basically it's just me and Marty Basic. And Seth is.
Telling you I can't.
Yeah. So it's effectively like 2 regular members and we're extremely sensitive to like any schedule conflicts. So if there is a desire to continue the policy board, because I know some of the efforts we started working on, there was kind of like oh yeah, let's actually do something else. But if there is a desire to have a policy board again this year, it probably needs at least one more member to help with that. But we did have a brief discussion about like, hey, is there a better day of the week to meet that would help attendance, but. Yeah.
And then, street design didn't meet, Paul was our chair of that subcommittee, and he resigned. I think he missed our last in-person board meeting, but he resigned in the interim there, so, we did not meet, but, I think adding the subcommittees to I'm trying to keep track of what we added to new business, but adding the subcommittees to new business following the reorganization, I think makes sense to kind of confirm who are on these boards and who we want to have on these board or subcommittees going forward. So with that, reorganization discussion, we were supposed to reorg last month, but we were short on attendance, but we have full quorum here tonight. I'm happy to stay on as board chair if you all have me. And then I would defer to Charlotte regarding vice chair.
Yep, I'd like to stay on as vice chair as well. Works for everybody.
I'd like to make a motion to keep the president or the chair and vice chair as Stephanie Charlotte.
Seconded.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We will stay on. Thank you.
you.
Old business parking enforcement hearing appeal schedule. I think Rudy, you were having a discussion there. Do we have that updated
Yeah, it's
schedule?
posted, it's in
Okay.
the, Teams folder, under ticket appeal information. And it's the Excel file, hearing officers 260331. Mark put that together for us, so.
And what was happening was just all board members are gonna serve like a 2-month cycle and we'll keep rotating through that. It's pretty straightforward. Mike makes it easy. Beth, have you had to do any?
Yeah.
Okay. It's pretty straightforward. So I think you're just looking for a recommendation to prove that schedule or we're,
Correct,
yep.
yes, yeah.
I'll make a recommendation or I'll make a motion to approve the parking enforcement hearing appeal schedule. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right. New business, Rudy, I think you talked about the active transportation plan, so nothing on that one. Trying to keep track of new business. We had scrubgrass, so I believe the motion or the potential motion is to move forward, investigate and move forward any elements that would not impact the full depth reconstruction is it a full depth reconstruction, Rudy? Am I getting ahead of myself?
Which one?
Scrubgrass. It's just a.
No, it's supposed to be a mill.
Mill and
Resurfacing, yeah, but we usually go about 3.5, 4 inches, so we're putting 1.5 inches at the top and 1.5 to 2 inches of binder as well.
So the motion I would make is to move forward any elements of the project proposal that could be done that would not impact or would not detrimentally impact the resurfacing project that is moved to 2027.
What might,
2026, sorry.
what might those be, like, yeah, could we get a refresher on?
So it would be marking the crosswalk at the bottom of the stairs with piano key markings, but it would just be paint. Waterborne paint. There's signage associated with the at the crosswalk and the approaches to it. And then there's for the speed minder signs that are just the electronic signs that basically tell you what speed you're traveling. Usually it'll have this speed limit and then what you're traveling and it'll either blink or flash if you're exceeding the speed limit. There'll be 2 in each direction. Between Cochrane and Swallow Hill.
It gets weird down at the other end.
Yeah, I think it is swollen, yeah.
So we've already approved all that.
Yeah.
I mean, we already
Yeah,
said.
so it was
Yeah.
already approved and budgeted, so it's just a
Right.
function of, you
Right.
know, those things could. I guess those things could be implemented in part by Public Works, not that you don't have enough to do, really. And then.
We toss some tree limbs up down there, maybe?
Well, yeah.
I mean, those could be like a natural speed bump.
Just leaving it a little unsurfaced for, I don't know, a couple of months, then see how the speeding is
It's
impacted.
going to be for.
If you've not been down there, it's pretty bad right now. The freeze thaw really,
We did some
Took a toll.
of
Get
the
the
worst
black
areas,
rock
we're gonna
back.
have to go back on in there.
Just say, oh, the resources aren't available right now for blacktop, they're way backed up. You've heard
Yeah.
that before.
the only thing I would add is if we have the pre-data from that effort, it probably still is okay. If we did the piano key and then even the speed miner signs, I'd kind of be curious about post-data collection, just as an interim, if it doesn't take much to put it out there, just to see if there's any change from that pre-data for reference. And then when we go back and do the whole effort, see, we can probably add that post-data again, so. Too much, yeah, so I would make a motion to move those elements forward. No, or any second? Any discussion?
I'm just gonna say, it's like, yeah, I'd be curious about the post data too, cause like the piano keys and the speed minder signs are measures which I am skeptical will help very much.
That's where I am too, John, so I just want, if it doesn't take much to collect, I just kind of want to see where we're at. But speed miners were desired by some of the community, so happy to find out if there's any impact. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, we'll move that forward on scrubgrass. Okay. Let's see, Kelso Road, I think that recommendation, I would just, in terms of recommendations, I think that already lives there and we're bringing that forward for the June agenda. On the sidewalks. Once again, I'm happy to see those move forward as well. So I don't know if we can, Washington Road, we're gonna move in June. I'm just looking through your recommendations.
Yeah, I don't know if we formally
I was gonna,
submitted or,
well, I was just trying to address them in items in new business, so,
I see.
let's have let's add the sidewalks for Kelso, Greenhurst and Salem as new business item and just, would anyone like to make a motion to move those forward to the manager? Okay,
I'll second.
I don't think there's any, is there any, more sidewalks or good sidewalks, so,
What was the, which streets?
Three.
Kelso, Greenhurst and Salem, right?
As part of Greenhurst, I think we wanted to include though.
Yeah, we did.
Lakemont.
It was
Yeah,
a
didn't we-
small portion.
Didn't we nix that because of the Salem stuff or no? Maybe.
I don't think so, because I think the original intent, and I just was thinking, when were saying Greenhurst, the original intent was to make a full connection between Hoover and the main park, and in order to do that, we need to put sidewalks, Greenhurst, Lakemont to whatever that
To Kurt.
Larchdale. That then would connect Hoover to the main park and high school to that area as well. So I think it has to be either or. I'm sorry that we're just bringing this up now, but I think I was picturing Greenhurst as and Lakemont as like one segment, but if that's gonna, I think if we would have to take out maybe Salem in order to do that. If we can't,
Oh, I think it just goes to the manager's budget, his line budget and.
Right, I mean, it's really not about like trying to fit in the budget, it's about what our priorities were as a board, so.
I mean,
So could
I
we have
think
like
we were all aligned on
Yes,
that, right?
yeah,
I think we
yeah.
just didn't get that detail in the note.
Yeah.
Right.
so this just carries our 2025 recommendation and
It did.
add Salem.
Yeah,
Okay.
And replace some country
removes
club.
country
Yeah.
club, right?
Yeah.
So that, yeah, let's make that motion basically to take the mobility board's 2025 sidewalk recommendation, removing country club and replacing it with Salem Drive in the 2026 cycle. So, any second,
I'll second.
any discussion? All in favor, say aye. All right, motion passes. Just moving through Washington Road, I'm gonna,
One
go
question
ahead.
though, did you say that
Hmm?
we are getting signals on, how about Cochrane and Washington? What do you mean by an audio?
audible pedestrian
Audible-
signals.
Audible pedestrian, yeah,
Yes.
so where's that going and what intersections are?
From Shady Drive west to east, all the way to Castellano Boulevard, and then also Cochran Road.
Okay.
We're not doing, Jefferson Orchard, Washington, right? No, that one's, it's in the middle
So
there.
they'll be talking to,
Station, I
Yeah.
think, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they beep so that, people with visual impairment can find them. And then they also, when you activate them, they'll tell you when they verbally tell you when it's safe to cross whichever road.
are we doing that this year?
Cochrane.
Yeah, it's already.
I think
It's under
there was
contract and they've,
Yep.
I think they've ordered all the equipment. It's just
Eight to-
lead time even on stuff like that. It's not
I think there might have been a Lebo article this month.
I'm sorry.
A Lebo magazine, Mount Lebanon magazine might have had an article on it or a post on it. I just saw it and it was in my head, so,
Oh, great, yeah, I
That's
didn't
coming.
realize that was happening.
Was it installed at Cedar Cochrane?
Bower Hill,
Bower Hill and
Washington,
Washington.
and also at, Cedar and, oh, Cedar and.
Cedar
Cotton.
Cotton,
Cedar
yes,
Cochrane.
that was a
as
couple
soon as
years
my
ago.
down, I was like, whoa.
That's been
That was a
for
couple years ago.
Oh, yeah.
they all have the countdown timers, right? Or
Yeah, they all have them now.
Yeah, for the ped, for the visual, yeah, the heads, yeah.
Oh, I had never heard the beeping on Cedar Cochrane until recently. You have to activate.
No, it does it all the time.
Mhm.
And actually, you can modify it. It has settings on it. You plug into it and, we had to turn that one down because it's right next to a house on one
Yeah.
corner there. so.
The same thing happened
I
at
got
Washington
called
at
that
Bower
day,
Hill.
yeah.
Okay, so Washington Road, we're gonna have it on the agenda for June. Beverly Road, I wanted to make a new business and my suggestion there is kind of just driven by what happens there. The study before it had a pretty narrow, what they called the parking shed. I think the school with the pickleball courts and the impacts that are happening there there's more going on in the Beverly Road area than there was going on in 2017 with new businesses and other, I would recommend zooming that further out. My only concern is I don't want to keep bringing up the active transportation plan. I don't know how they're addressing the schools, but I think if we took between, I guess my recommendation or a recommendation for a motion on Beverly Road would be to fund a study of the Beverly Business District and Lincoln Elementary School half mile. Half miles about what people will walk in terms of a walk shed, willingly walk, depending on topography. But the half mile, Beverly Business District and Lincoln Elementary School half mile walk shed to fund a study. To carry forward recommendations or confirm things from 2017 or present new opportunities.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what we're.
that's what our
really
recommendation
aiming at,
is,
you know.
really take that 2017,
Right.
it needs to be refreshed
Yep.
based on the new tenants and changes that have happened post-COVID.
How much, approximately how much do such studies cost?
Well, the active transportation plan costs I think the budget is 150K for the whole thing between Dormont and Mount Lebanon. And honestly, 50K is probably it. If you want detailed recommendations, 50K is probably a starting point. This is me swagging a little bit, so Mike, but that's a starting point there.
Because like I'm always skeptical of like studying things to death. And it seems like that this is a parking study, so it's not like some PennDOT mandated study to fix some safety issue. Where they, like, if we wanna change anything, it needs to have a study. I know this is a while ago, but I believe I sent an email to everyone. I did visit Beverly. Initially, I was skeptical of the idea that their parking was busier than pre-pandemic. I think I've been disillusioned. I think I do think now, it's like, yes, that their parking demand has not gone down. But I also don't think it's changed enough to justify a whole new study. And having, so there's several issues going on. Like there's the employee issue where it's like the 2-hour parking window, that's a separate problem compared to just overall demand. As far as like overall demand goes, I seem to notice that they had their parking shed in the study. And then like, once you left that border, it fell off a cliff. So, I mean.
That's kind of where I'm getting at with the half mile recommendation.
Yeah, there might
because
be some.
because Bauer-
to that.
I'm just trying to respond to the community at large. I know the business districts are vocal here, but half mile, just for example, within a quarter mile, you have Bower Hill Road, like less than a quarter mile, Bower Hill Road's there. It takes us a little further out. Now, this might create a non-implementable study, but I would like to see larger decision-making on how things are moving around there, rather than just focused on a parking study. Go ahead, Kelly.
Just a question, I don't know how parking studies are done, but is there any aspect of it for those people? Are you just counting cars, or are you also looking at how many people are circling multiple times and choose not to come to a business because they cannot find parking? Or is this just a circulation quota that they study how many cars are in passing?
I think where we're starting at here is to move a study forward in terms of, I would like to go beyond parking, because I think there's an under considered aspect of lack of space for people in general. Like I know there's a shortage of parking, but anytime I'm down there, I feel cramped in, like there's piles of scooters and bikes in front of Scoops. There's one bike rack there. There's crazy people running red lights at drop off in the morning during the go zone. And I think if we look at a half mile of improvements for the Beverly Lincoln, what I would like to call network improvements, which could include parking, which could include people moving on foot, which include people potentially moving on bike. That's what I would want to look at, because I think narrowing it down to parking, that's not the only problem there. Actually, that circling, while not ideal, that's people want to be there. That's a good sign. So we want to find them a spot and do things like, hey, let's enforce the meters and move it through. But I think making it so narrow as parking, we don't get solutions for the whole community. It's kind of where I'm coming from. but.
Yeah.
And at Washington, we've got 64 employees and 12 parking spots.
Right.
I mean.
Yeah.
You gotta come to work every day.
Yeah, and I'm sure Lincoln has similar numbers. Yeah, I would like this, I don't think the school was kind of enveloped as a part of the last one, so I think having them together to understand what is truly available, what are some of the barriers to making it better, and come up with solutions for the business district and for the schools. Cause I mean, I love the neighborhood, I would just like to see it better for all of us.
I agree, because those pickleball courts as well, like utilize that public park space and make that whole area just.
I'm curious what they're providing. They're not shopping in businesses. That was, I think, when the pickleball courts went in,
Yeah.
the recommendation was for them to park in the overlook lot. They're definitely not parking in the overlook lot. They're definitely not they are parking anywhere and everywhere as close as possible to Lincoln. And they've now they're marking their own furniture and so that's a whole aside, but that's the motion I would like to make is.
Pittsburgh chair or something?
It says Meadowcroft, it just says Meadowcroft Park, like they've spray painted it, and I don't wanna say some parents have suggested vandalizing and throwing it out, but it looks pretty trashy over there, to be honest.
So I guess I'm open to the idea of like tacking on an updated parking study to a bigger study. But if we just make a recommendation to say like, study this, that seems kind of vague. Do we need to nail that down at all? Like,
Anytime a study's done, you're gonna ask for an RFP. So when you send that out, you detail what you anticipate or expect to get out of that study. So
yeah.
that's the key, is to lay the specifications out on what you were trying to accomplish with the study. And then you get the proposals in, you review them and see which one matches the request and what you're trying to accomplish with that study.
I'm happy to take a swing at a scope and bring it to the June meeting.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's what I was gonna say, like.
Or preliminary scope, and then have us, I mean, let's move it, yeah, I'll put it on the June meeting but the manager kind of wanted things now-ish.
We start out with capital and that hasn't been requested yet, so, but we will be moving into that shortly.
Okay. Let's try to nail that down in June. I could bring kind of a recommendation or scope to review and see if we want to add things to it, send that on to the manager. Go ahead.
I have a question about going past Flower Hill. Is that what you were suggesting, like looking at parking across the street?
Not parking across the street. I want to look at the half mile,
Okay.
that's usually kind of the standard. Just for example, when PRT looks at our light rail stations or anything else, we look at the half mile walk shed for safety improvements or other conditions that are happening in that half mile walk shed. So we're not suggesting folks park across Flower Hill because I know there's topographic challenges there. But at the same time, you could like that. But I think there's some safety improvements there that could help everyone maybe feel more comfortable walking that don't walk to Beverly right now. Like there's a lot of kids that cross for Lincoln that maybe are driving across, like impacts that are happening with that circling that aren't just people coming to the businesses, but people trying to go to the go zone. So I'm just trying to look at ideas for the network that could reduce the load for that area, that could improve everything for everyone. Pretty fine in the sky, but that would be the intent of that. So I'll try to bring a scope-ish to June and we can make that recommendation. If that sounds okay to folks. We don't have to vote on anything right now. And then finally, let's see. Traffic calming on Shady Drive West. I think did they bring a petition forward to us?
There is a petition now.
Okay.
Charlotte, you have it, right?
Yeah, I think I do. I can put it on, whatever documents I have, I can put on the share.
Have we done the data request for Shady Drive West? I think that would be the starting point for the recommendation tonight, to do the data requests.
That was a recommendation to the manager, yeah, to see actually where you're at.
Okay. Yes, I mean,
Yeah, I don't recall the specifics about that data request, if we said that last month.
Traffic counts and speeds and volumes basically is what it amounts to initially.
yeah, let's start there, because that's our baseline. Or was there more to the request?
I think, Andrew and I had talked about this, and beyond just a basic traffic calming, it was creating more of a concept of a living street that would take into consideration traffic calming along with stormwater collection and improving air quality. So while accommodating the flow of safety vehicles, because the safety center is at the top and Shady Drive West is routinely used. So looking at it as a pilot project where if it's possible on Shady Drive West, that could be used as a blueprint for other streets around the community. I think that is like a pie in the sky kind of concept that has been discussed. So I know that some of the residents are trying to get some sketches of this similar to some of the other design sketches that we've seen, just as an example for people to envision, and perhaps that'll be ready by June, I don't know. So it goes kind of maybe beyond the standard traffic requests. But I do know that like stop bars and a crosswalk would be at a minimum request of Shady and Coolidge. But so it's kind of like a two-part thing.
Okay, so let's formally put it on for like, let's start the data, because I think
Sure.
it's still good for us to have the data collection as a no matter what change happens, then we can look at the post whatever changes. So, and then you thought maybe by June we could have something a little more formal from a proposal?
From a sketch, well, there is a
Yeah,
proposal, I'm hopeful, yeah.
Okay, let's make a motion to, I'll make a motion to begin the data collection process for Shady Drive West, and then in June, receive a more formal sketch or proposal for the street.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye. All right, motion passes. I think we've got through a lot, so
Yeah, that was.
anything else we wanted to have under new business tonight?
Do we want to discuss the subcommittees?
Oh, good point, John. Yes, we did.
Sorry to butt, we also, did we get our Washington Road discussion out of the way that we,
We're gonna,
in an earlier point in the meeting, we said, oh, we'll save that for later.
I had a lot of questions on I was just gonna add Washington Road as an old business agenda item for next month to try to get some questions answered in the interim. And then we can have a discussion at that point about what we're gonna do. Cause I do think that's a pretty, we had 30,000 in the budget this year for mobility board, or I can't remember what
But some of that on Kelso already,
right, so it's like, we're already talking signals. Signals seem to start at 100,000 and only go up from there. Unfortunately, they're an expensive piece of equipment. So, yeah, subcommittees, I think capital budget, who's been meeting with capital budget, Lisa, Charlotte?
Four of us.
Street design, we had Aaron and myself and Paul, but Paul has rotated off. The only impact of subcommittees is the issue of a quorum, and I know folks have time, but I would certainly like each board member, if they have the time, to participate. I guess the thought is here, as long as we don't have more than 4 people at a meeting, we're.
Board members.
Yeah,
You
more
can have
members.
members of the public, but not board members.
The only thought I would have is maybe rolling policy and street design back into one entity, because it doesn't seem like we have the appetite for 3 entities just as a board, just by the nature of scheduling and everything else. Maybe it makes it easier to just schedule 2 subcommittees at this time. That would be a recommendation I have, but if anyone else has thoughts on that front. I'm looking at you, John.
Some of the policies that are, well, I'm thinking of existing policies. Some of the policies do have overlap with street design. Such as our the construction or like crosswalk policy. And as I was looking at this weekend, the subdivision and land development ordinance, stuff like that. So there's some things, there's decent overlap. I was gonna say that's a bad idea and that they're different. I'm like thinking of like tax. But no, there is actually overlap. So.
What do you think, Aaron? Do you think that makes sense?
I think so, and it'd be the 3 of us, and then you mentioned Marty.
Yeah, Marty's not a board.
Potentially have 4.
Well, I
3
think not
board
even board,
members.
yeah, it wouldn't be, 3 board members, because pulling John in, and then Taryn or Brooke, you're welcome to join.
Yeah, I'm happy to help where where I'm needed or where possible. I do think that like, I'm already hearing like it's hard for everybody to get around. I've got lots of evening obligations too, like I'm supposed to be at a band concert right now, but like, it's,
I can go to soccer practice. Yeah.
right, but I'm happy to help when I'm available for sure.
I think giving us two gives us a little flexibility to, for people to pop in
Makes
or,
sense,
and touch
yeah.
on both of them, rather than having three and us already being spread too thin. I think it makes sense. So I would make a motion to maintain the capital budget subcommittee and roll policy and street design into one subcommittee for the next year.
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion? I think we had it. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passes. All right. Our next meeting is June 3rd at 6 p.m. and I believe I will be here, so we'll see you all there and if everyone can make it. I know that's right at the end of school, so Brooke, there's probably a lot happening on your plate.
Oh my gosh, and I have a senior, so like the end of this month right now is.
But yeah, I'll make a motion to adjourn. Oh, go
Can
ahead.
I, real quick,
Yep.
so are there any lists to, updates to this list that Charlotte was good enough to send out? I mean, I'm gonna go off of this, cause I'm gonna have to be the one that,
I took a bunch of notes. for you.
I tried to keep up with you
Yeah.
guys, but it wasn't easy, so.
I took a bunch of notes. I can follow up to that email and maybe
Okay,
put things in buckets
if
to
we
where I
could,
think they
okay,
end up.
so that I
Don't
can.
give anything away.
Got that. Couple pages, but I don't know if I can decipher them or not on the backside.
A motion to adjourn on the table. Anyone want a second? All in favor? Say aye. Aye. Thank you all.